Hello, boys and girls. Today we'll be talking about rounding. Let's explain this picture. So the word rounding. If a number is 4 or less, the number needs to be rounded down. If a number is 5 or more, the number needs to be rounded up. Let's go ahead and look at some examples. Why is rounding so important in math? Let's look at a scenario. Mrs. Munir needed to go to the nearest train station quickly. There was one on 50th Street and one on 60th Street. If Mrs. Munir was standing on 58th Street, what is the closest street to the station? So we will use a number line for this example. So we're going to draw a number line. We have 50th Street for that one train station. We have 60th Street for the next train station. Mrs. Munir is standing on 58th Street. Which train station is closer to her? The one on 60th or the one on 50th? And if she needs to go quickly, will she walk 2 more streets? Or will she walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more streets? What do you think is the answer? If you guessed 60th Street, you are correct. Vocabulary. Number 1, rounding. When you take a number and bump it up or bump it down to a nearby number. Number 2, round up. To go up to the next 10, 100, or 1,000. Number 3, round down. Go back down to the 10, 100, or 1,000. Let's do 2 examples using a number line. So we have the example 27, and number 2, the example is 23. And we will round to the nearest 10. So notice I have a number line from 20 to 30. So the first thing you're going to do is you will take a symbol and put it on top of whatever number that you have. So my number is 27. I went ahead and put a star on 27. Now what I'm going to do is figure out how many jumps it takes from 27 to 30 and how many jumps down it takes from 27 to 20. And these are my jumps. So if I'm standing on 27, I have 3 jumps to get to 30. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jumps to get to 20. What number do you think is closer, 20 or 30? The answer is 30. So 27 rounds to 30. So the next example is 23. The first thing I'm going to do is put a symbol on the number 23, and then I will go ahead and practice my jumps. So from 23 to 20, and then my jumps from 23 to number 30. And this is what that looks like. So I have 3 jumps to number 20, or I have 7 jumps to number 30. Which number is closer to 23? Number 20 or number 30? The answer is 20. This next strategy, we will go ahead and read out the steps to underline and circle the number. Rounding strategies. Use these steps to round numbers. Step 1. Underline the place that you will be rounding. Step 2. Look at your neighbor to the right and circle it. Step 3. Remember the rounding rules. 5 or more, you add 1 more. 4 or less, it stays the same. Let's go ahead and do these two examples and we will round to the nearest 100. So we have the number 274. First, I wrote out the number. Since I'm rounding to the nearest 100, I am underlining the hundreds place. And then I am looking at my neighbor 7, and I'm circling it. And then what I'm going to do is look at 7 and ask myself, is 7 5 or more? Or is 7 4 or less? 7 is 5 or more, so you will round up, which means 274 would change to 300. You would go ahead and add one more to the 2, and everything else becomes zeros. So 274 rounds to 300. Let's go ahead and do the second example. So we have the number 338. I'm rounding to the nearest 100, so I will underline my hundreds place. I'm circling my neighbor to the right, which is a 3. And then I'm going to ask myself, is the number 3 5 or more, or is it 4 or less? Number 3 is 4 or less, so you will round down, which means you leave the 3 the same. Everything else becomes zeros. So 338 also rounds to 300. Rounding to the nearest 10 and 100. So here's an example of 546, and we're going to take 546 and round to the nearest 10. We're going to take 546 and round to the nearest 100. And if you're using a number line, we're going to go ahead and look at an example where you have to draw 2 separate number lines for the same number, since we are rounding at a different place value. Let's go ahead and look at this example. Rounding 546 to the nearest 10. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my number line, and I'm going to write on my number line from 540 to 550. I will go ahead and count by ones, and then I will place my symbol on 546. The next thing I'm going to do is my jumps. I'm going to jump from 546 to 550, and then I'm going to jump down 546 to 540. And then you will see how many jumps it takes for either of the numbers. And pick the one that's closer. So the answer, 546 rounds to 550. Why is that? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps to get to 550. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jumps down to get to 540. This one wins. Let's go ahead and look at the next example. Rounding 546 to the nearest 100. So that means your number line will be from 500 to 600. And then you'll be counting by 10. So you have 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Whereas this one was counting by the ones to get to the either tens place. So let's go ahead and see what we need to do first. The first thing we're going to do is 546 will kind of come on here. So it'll be on a 540 area. And then from here, you're going to do your jumps. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps to get to 500. Or you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jumps to get to 600. And the 4 jumps is obviously closer, so the answer is 546 rounds to 500. Let's look at some examples. So we have round to the nearest tens. So we have the number 274. And notice I didn't write all my numbers on a number line. And you might not get that on a test or another worksheet. So if you don't have numbers on a number line, the best thing to do is write them out. Sometimes you will have them, sometimes you won't. So if you see some numbers missing, just write it out. And the next thing you're going to do is make a mark or a star. In this case, I made a mark. I even highlighted my number, 274. The next thing I'm going to do is my jumps. So I have 4 jumps to get to 270. I have 6 jumps to get to 280. If you're using the number line strategy. If you are using the underline and circle strategy, you're going to underline the 7 because it's in the tens place. So we're not underlining the 2. That's the hundreds place. We underline the 7. That's the one we're going to round. And then we circle the 4. And what do we ask ourselves? We say, is 4 5 or more, or is it 4 or less? 4 is 4 or less, so that means 274 rounds to 270, and that's our answer. Let's go ahead and do example number 2. Round to the nearest hundreds. 1,681. So the first thing you're going to do is underline the 6 because that is in the hundreds place. And we go ahead and circle the 8 because that's our next door neighbor. And then we ask 8, is 8 5 or more, or is 8 4 or less? And that will determine if we round the 6. Let's go ahead and see this on a number line. So we have 1,600. We have 1,700. 1,681 is right here. So you could see this a little better in a number line because you can see it takes 2 jumps for us to go to 1,700, whereas it takes 8 jumps to get to 1,600. So our answer is 1,681 rounds to 1,700. Let's go ahead and look at example number 3. Round to the nearest thousands. So we're going to go ahead and underline the 7 because that's in the thousands place. And we go ahead and circle the 5. And then we ask the 5, is 5 5 or more, or is 5 4 or less? And that will determine if we round up or down. Let's go ahead and look at it on a number line. So we have a number line starting at 7,000, ending at 8,000. Our number 7,592 is in the middle. So we have 5 jumps to get to 8,000. We have about 5 jumps to get to 7,000. But we know that this number right here, this 5, is 5 or more. So that means we would go ahead and round here to the 8,000. So our answer is 7,592 rounds to 8,000. Let's go ahead and look at example number 4. Round to the nearest 10,000s. Okay, our numbers are just getting bigger, but that's okay. We still underline the place value. So 10,000 is 2, so we underline 2. We go ahead and circle 3, and then we ask 3, is the number 3 5 or more, or is the number 3 4 or less? If we go ahead and make our number line, our number line is from 120,000 to 130,000. Our number 123,809 is over here. And then we're going to go ahead and jump and see which way is closer. So we have 3 jumps to get to 120,000. We have 7 jumps to get to 130,000. So our answer is 123,809 rounds to 120,000. So these are math journal activities you can do to go ahead and practice more on rounding. So number 1, you will round 718 to the nearest 10. Number 2, round 718 to the nearest 100. Number 3, locate and label 46 on the number line. Round to the nearest 10. Number 4, there are 372 workers at a software company. What is this number rounded to the nearest 100? Math journal activity number 2, you will be rounding to the nearest 10 and 100 with the same number. Make sure to go back to this video, the notes, to go ahead and review on how to do that. Math journal activity number 3, another practice on rounding to the nearest 10 and 100 with the same number. Math journal activity number 4. You will use this table, hot lunches sold at Brown's school. Use this table to answer questions 14 through 16. I'll read the questions out loud for you. Which is the number of hot lunches sold on Monday rounded to the nearest 10? It's asking about Monday rounded to the nearest 10. 15 is a multi-step problem. Which is closest to the total number of hot lunches sold on Thursday and Friday? So Thursday and Friday. Make sure to round to the nearest 100 and then add up the numbers for Thursday and Friday. Number 16, multi-step. Which is closest to the difference of the number of hot lunches sold on Monday and Tuesday? Remember to round to the nearest 10 and subtract. So we have Monday, we have Tuesday, and you're going to find the difference. This is a little anchor chart to help remind you on how to use the steps if you are rounding using this method, underlining the number and circling your neighbor, asking if it's 5 or more or 4 or less. You also have the option of using a number line to write out your numbers, put a symbol on your number. That way you can know how many jumps it takes either to this end or to this end. And that is all for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.